I'm Sandy Oliviera. I'm 66 years old. Today's date is August 25th, 2015. We are at the Fox Point Library, and I am Joan's friend.
I'm Joan Ritchie. I'm 75 years old. Today's date is, as she said, 8/25/15. We're at the library, and I'm a friend of Sandy's.
So welcome, Joan, and thank you for participating in StoryCorps with us. So how did you decide to start a shop, and where?
Okay, that takes us back to 1980. We're about to celebrate our 35th anniversary. And the why can be summed up by the fact that we were two school teachers who traveled during the summers. My husband taught art and was an avid collector of flat-woven oriental rugs. I had studied anthropology, so given that, our backgrounds, and what we found when we traveled to Turkey, the Middle East, North Africa, it was just, he went kind of nuts, and we started collecting and came back and decided that we had to share these things. So we decided to open a shop. 1980, we didn't have money, so to speak, to school teachers. You know, at 1980, I won't go into what the salaries were, and we have a niece with an MBA who said right at the outset, "You're very undercapitalized." However, we came to Fox Point and found a place that was in quite bad shape, but it had about 1,000 square feet. A sculptor had been using it, probably somewhat illegally, and we fell in love with the building, the space, the street. It had such a wonderful combination of old world, grandmothers walking their kids to the elementary school, lovely crossing guards, very interesting architecture. So we found out that the rent was $168 a month.
Yeah.
And we shared the space with Wickenden Country Antiques. So that gives you an idea of why, we were undercapitalized and it didn't matter. You could do that then.
Yeah.
So we opened our shop, and for the next 7 years before developers discovered Wickenden Street, we had a great time.
Oh, great. And so then where did you move the shop to after that?
After that, they sold the building. We were in 3 or 4 times, and the fourth person who bought it gave us 30 days. And so we decided if we were going to stay in business, we would have to buy the building because that felt too awful. So we went around the corner to Ives Street, and of course, bypassing the wonderful library that holds this place all together so well and is such a good example of community and what it can do. We found this building, and it was quite reasonable because it was in tough shape, and Ives Street at that point in time was a little iffy in terms of potential drug sales and violence that had occurred at one of what used to be a bar on the street. So we bought it, fixed it up, and have been there ever since, and love it.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful shop. I love your decorations on the outside, and I love all the things inside of it. Now, at one point, when I started working for the library in 1987, there was another wonderful lady that worked with you. Her name was Peggy. And she had an interesting half of the shop.
Yes, she had been a customer on Wickenden Street, and we just, within 3 minutes, became friends. And she wanted to open a shop with Native American art and crafts. And because we covered the world, it was so appropriate and so wonderful. So that was the beginning of a long and amazingly wonderful friendship, partnership, and She has retired, and we miss her, but we still
Oh, I
see her.
bet. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, your shop has so many really unique things. I remember when I started working for the library, I worked with a wonderful woman named Yvonne Smart, and I know she was the first one to venture in your shop. I was still too chicken little to venture out much, and she came back with the most amazing things and scarves, and I have a wonderful, wonderful collection of scarves from your shop, as well as jewelry and other wonderful things.
Yeah, although we started out really concentrating on tribal textiles and flat woven oriental rugs, we increased our travels and found these amazing things that were part of clothing, accessories, jewelry. Jewelry around the world is so interesting. So,
It
and
is.
Yvonne used to come in, and then you came in. It's been great.
It has been great, and it's amazing to see the collection of, I guess you could say it's a plethora of cultures and unique gifts that's in your shop. Now, how has that shop maybe impacted the neighborhood?
Whenever we can, and we've made various efforts, we, again, school teachers, so part of what we do is to want to show the world. And I mean, our name, the Peaceable Kingdom, is named after a folk artist who saw how in visual art he could make the lion lay down with the lamb, and the idea of beauty cohabiting in a peaceful setting.
Yep.
It's very interesting because there recently has been an exhibit of his work, and everyone thought he became a Quaker. He's a folk artist. He was a folk artist, and that connects him to folk art, which is what we have.
Right.
But everyone thought, Quaker, he's idealizing. It turns out that during his tenure as a Quaker leader, the church was undergoing some kind of division. Just let man get involved with anything. There's a tendency to argue and to find differences of opinion. And he painted more of them. So it really was a dedication to the idea that beauty resides peacefully, and the hands of man around the world just exemplify that.
Yeah, and it's amazing the things in the shop. I know I've touched on that a bit before, but it's amazing to see how people around the world are taking sometimes everyday items and making them into beautiful artwork, and thus helping to earn a living.
That has been very encouraging. We support fair trade groups, and the number of groups now that are saving plastic bags and making them into all kinds of things, from bath mats to purses to the bags, even some clothing articles, or taking tin cans and making them into sculptures and trains, and it's really endless, and we're very pleased to say there are so many groups doing that. In a small village in Rajasthan, India, the kids go to the nearest point, which is a little bigger than where they live, a little larger village, and collect all candy wrappers. And they wash and clean them, and then they make these decorative items that are just superb, that are used in their own wedding ceremonies and such. But they're so exciting and colorful, so they've been marketed.
And it's amazing the imagination. Whereas some folks would look at it and go, oh, that's just trash and junk, and let's not bother with it. And other people can look at it. It's true. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it's true that you can look at something and say it's trash, and then another person will go, oh, no, wait, that's a great treasure, and look at what I can do with it.
I think one of the best examples of that is there's a group in Thailand, and they've taken the yellow pages of the telephone book in Bangkok, which, being such an enormous city, the telephone book must be 5 inches thick, and they have recycled and made woven ornaments.
Wow.
Seahorses and chickens and camels, and it's amazing. You can still see the numbers and the letters of the people. So there you are, telephone books.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And with your wonderful shop and your talents, you've brought a lot of that to the library and shared a lot of those things with the library as well, and done programs here.
Yes, of course, a lot of fun. Mask making, because we do have masks, and music. Masks and music. I mean, what person is not going to respond in some way to masks and music and wonderful programs? Yes.
Yeah, and I know how much the kids have enjoyed, having it. You shared. I remember Peggy sharing a lot of her Native American things that we had decorating the library here. And I remember when Yvonne brought them in, and I thought to myself, oh my God, this stuff is going to be expensive, and it's in the shop and on the shelves. And I was worried, but nobody bothered it, and everyone enjoyed it, and it was a wonderful program and wonderful way that you were able to share that with us in the library. How do you think the neighborhood has changed through the years?
Boy, it certainly has changed. What hasn't? Although I am happy to say that I still see grandmothers walking grandkids to the Vartan Gregorian School. That continues to delight me, and So change. There's also something that draws people back to Ives Street and Fox Point, whether it's Eagle Market and that I just love, because I will see, people who were 4 years old and now they're adults, and they'll still come around, even though they live in wherever, East Providence, another city, but they come back because it still maintains some kind of a connection to that earlier mix that was so great.
Yeah, they do. The children that grew up here when I first started working for the library, it's amazing how they will come in, and now they're bringing their children. So I started, as you said, with the children. They've grown up, they've had children, and actually one person's brought his grandson in not that long ago.
I know. Yeah, that's happening. I know.
So it's amazing to see how people love it. I mean, it's a wonderful neighborhood. It's a very friendly neighborhood, and once the neighborhood takes you into their heart, forget it. You're done. You're in there, and it's a good thing. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and
it's a great thing. And I've seen people who've come into the neighborhood sometimes get a little nervous if a young kid whose pants are, a little below wherever, and we've never had a problem. We've never had a problem. And in the morning when I try to, if I have to open myself without my husband, we have these doors that pull down, and, someone is there to help me do it, because they're a little heavy at 75. So, we've just loved this neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a good neighborhood, and I know some of the new people will come in and they'll say, "Oh, are you afraid?" And it's like, no, I've been here sometimes at 10:30 at night, and I know my friends in the neighborhood are looking out for my car and looking out for me, and I know this because the next day they'll say to me, "You were here pretty late last night, weren't you?" And I've never felt frightened, and once I got past that initial timidity by being new to the neighborhood, and then once you find the love and the camaraderie and it's like one giant family, and everybody looks out for one another. It really is a village, and
it is
unto itself.
You're absolutely right. It is a village, and they keep track. When my grandkids started coming around, everyone knew, how's this one? How old is she now? You don't find neighborhoods with that kind of feel and community. I think the library, where it is and how it functions as this microcosm of this community with all ages and all differences in background, and it's pretty special. We're lucky. We
are lucky, and I've always considered, after my first year or two working for the library, I realized that I begin to feel like we are a library and we cater to the world, because with Brown University nearby, we have students from all over the world. We've had patrons from Pakistan and Nigeria and, Guatemala, and all over the place, Thailand, Korea. I could name almost every country on the planet, and they would have walked through the door at some time, and we've had them as a patron and a friend, and it's been a great thing.
I think you've hit on an answer to how has the neighborhood changed. That has happened so beautifully well, whether it's a silk sari walking by or in the comfort level, and I think you've hit on it. That change has added and made it more wonderful.
Yeah, it has. It really has. It's hitting on all of that. How does that make you feel to see all that change?
I think it makes me feel really good because it's happening in, not so rapid that you still don't see aspects of the grandmother, excuse me again. You still have the pull to the past. I think the changing ethnicities and such, visually they're so exciting.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Maybe an interest in the world. I do notice that kids who come in, and if I show a mask from West Africa, they'll say, "Oh, someone in my class is from Liberia." It's interesting. It sinks in. Yeah. So, because we're not concentrating on teaching geography so much, but here's almost a little lab.
And that's a good thing about your shop too. And you do programs in the shop.
Yes.
Periodically during the year. And I know one of the holidays that I've partaked in was the Day of the Dead, which was a fun program, making the sugar skulls.
Yes, that's been the most popular. Really, in the last 10 years, it has blossomed. But we have an altar, sugar skull workshops, and teachers will have parents call, "Where can I find a sugar skull mold?" And somehow we're online as having the sugar skull molds. And that's been very interesting to watch the growth of that. And then we celebrate Losar, the Tibetan New Year, and my daughter makes the traditional stew, which has dumplings, and the stew has 9 different ingredients, and the dumplings have 9 different predictions for the year. So it's fun, and it's an easy way to introduce another culture, another religion, another way of hoping for the future with humor.
Are there other programs that you do besides those two?
Well, we've done programs on fair trade groups, focusing on which ones are working with which groups and what they're doing. With the recycling, then we will also, because we're part of Gallery Night, we have to have a different focus. So musical instruments from around the world, and in November, nativities we have over 100 different nativities. So each gallery night is kind of like a little program, because we'll work up information to hand out and introduce different parts of the world with different traditions.
That's what makes your shop so cool, is all of that stuff. And it's a good way. I know I've enjoyed bringing my daughters in and my grandson. because it's a good way to learn. We're constantly learning, and it's a good thing to have places like your shop. There's not many places around that have such a unique collection and a learning
Environment, yeah.
environment. Yeah.
I love hearing that. You can make it up and write it on a T-shirt. And I'll say, "By Sandy," and I'll wear it. Okay.
Yeah. It's how many people do you think maybe can went to the shop maybe in the course of a year, a month? Let's do a month.
A month. With gallery night, that really, really helps because of, busloads come by and such. I'm not good on keeping track. I will say that in the past few years, between the internet and a variety of reasons, the number of people have gone down. On the other hand, because of gallery night, certain times of the month it really increases. On any gallery night, we'll have anywhere from 50 to 90 people for that night. And during the week, it so varies, but coming into the holiday season, then it gets busy.
It gets busier.
Again. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have many people who then become steady customers because of gallery night?
Yes. I think one of our more successful gallery nights, and actually we'll have to talk about bringing something like this into the library because it's just fabulous. We have many Tibetan Buddhist singing bowls.
Oh, yeah.
And they're made with 8 different metals. And, they approximate the Tibetan Buddhist monks do throat singing. So they are able to come out with these 2 totally different tones. And they're just amazing. So for one gallery night, we had a man playing the didgeridoo, and then we had a whole setup of singing bowls, and he worked the bowls. People were just absolutely mesmerized. It was really interesting, and I know our best customers are elementary school teachers who will buy a bowl and just tap it and then ask the kids, the last one to hear it, raise your hand. Those kids not only calm down, but they're competing to see who can be quieter the longest.
Well, what a great way to get the classroom to calm down. I've worked in a school as a lunch aide, so I understand quite well what it's like. And even here in the library, because we are in the building we share the building with the Boys and Girls Club. So we've had, sometimes 125 kids in the library sometimes. And it gets a little noisy. And then we've had performances. And so, it would be a great way to get quiet kind of quick.
Really, we'll talk about that, Sandy.
Yeah. It's how were you here? So you were here basically maybe during the blizzard of '78. Were you on Wickenden Street then?
No, we started 1980.
1980.
Oh, what a different look Wickenden Street had then. We were on the, quote, wrong end, quote, that is to say, not many shops, and after Hope Street.
Yeah. Right.
It really, really changed. It's changed a lot. Then, Wickenden Street has gone through many different phases, as you know, and the developers came in, pushed up the rents, and
yes,
how that happens with every neighborhood, which is a little sad.
Yeah, that's how we lost one of the wonderful little restaurants right across the street here from the library, was someone raising the rent, and now the building it's been vacant for 2-3 years now. And I never can understand how people feel that they can make a living that way. It's so backward to me, but I don't understand a lot of things financially, I guess.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But it's been wonderful to see the shop and watch it go. What are the countries that you have been to in all your travels?
Wow. I've been to over 50 countries. In terms of traveling for the shop, we certainly have concentrated on Turkey, on a part of the world that I'm afraid may not be completely open to travel for much longer. North Africa, South America, Central America, Southeast Asia, and the little countries in there.
It must have, dealing with the Middle East, I always wanted to travel. And now I'm thinking about how things are going on in the world, and it must be a little frightening to go back to those places because you never know what is going to erupt when you're there.
We were in Turkey last November, and the problems were evident at that point in time, and we don't think the leadership is handling it well at all. So, we looked at each other and said, whoops, this may be our last visit here. I still think it's very safe, but, in the same way that if you go to New York City, your chances are you may now see some different kind of activities and problems. I still think it's safe, but it has changed so much, and we've watched more conservative, more religious elements kind of taking over, and that I remember when my daughters were young, the younger one was 8, I believe, and we were in a somewhat conservative city in the middle of Turkey, in Anatolia, and she was 8 or 7, and she had on a sleeveless blouse and shorts because it was hot, and I didn't think about that, even though my arms were covered and such. And a man came up and slapped her.
Oh, goodness.
Was that a problem? No. Was he just behaving? Maybe it was too hot for him that day, but he really didn't like the fact that she had a fair amount exposed, even at 8. So things like that, you don't know what's going on in people's heads. But we've never been afraid, really, even that. I just made sure my husband didn't see it. That's and whisked them away. Yeah,
it's been wonderful for you to be able to travel. And I think you've recently traveled with your granddaughters, too, and taken them to, I believe it was South America or Central America.
Yeah, we've made a few trips, so that's been absolutely fabulous.
They must love traveling like that.
Some of them are getting to an age where, they're not that interested in being around older people and, looking at another museum or another marketplace, and but it's been wonderful. That has been really, really nice. In the back of my mind, I'm hoping maybe a trip to Dharamsala, India. That's what my daughter and I are saving towards. But I don't know how that's going to sit with the grandkids. But we'll see.
It'll be interesting. I mean, travel is something that I always wanted to do, and mostly I've only traveled in the States. The furthest I've ever gone was Jamaica and Cancun. But it was interesting to see, and I was able to. My husband and I were able to pay for our younger daughter to travel with my parents to China, and that was right after China had pretty much opened its doors, and I think it was maybe 1988.
Oh, exciting!
And so that was quite an experience for them to go and see China. And now, since the Olympics and how China, I wish they were all here to be able to travel back and see it, but both my parents are now gone, so they would not be able to travel. But it's got to be a great thing to be able to share the world with your grandchildren and your children that you have, and it's something that they won't ever forget.
Won't ever forget.
Yeah.
Won't, and neither will your daughter forget that trip to China.
No, she talks about that quite a bit.
Life-changing.
It is life-changing. And your daughters have had a wonderful experience on learning Spanish.
They're both fluent.
Do they speak any other language?
They've both studied some Portuguese. Siobhan speaks French, and she has studied Turkish. But it's in the cards that they both work with different populations, so they have to embrace other languages.
Oh, that's something else too. I didn't think about till just now. Speaking about languages, is it difficult when you go to foreign countries to communicate? Do you need to use an interpreter, or are you able to do all that yourself?
You know, it has never been difficult, and my French is so pathetic. My Spanish is not that great. You can between sign language. It has never been a problem. There invariably will be someone who wants to practice English. Never had a problem. Actually, in China, traveling with a friend alone, without a group, that I wished I had known some Mandarin, because that proved to be probably a little more difficult, but never anywhere else. It's interesting. Yeah. It gives a common ground if you have a sense of humor and can, at least learn basics of how are you, thank you, please, and it's very easy to do in any language. The doors are open. The eyes will speak for you, and if you can laugh, you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine it would be it would be quite a thing. And you carry that through even in your shop. When people come in and go to your shop, it's just you have that friendly way, and the friendly way is, like you're saying, is makes the transaction when you're in a foreign country easy.
Yeah.
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 How do you find the things that you...
Well, the travel is for the one of a kind now. Mm-hmm. Although, we support fair trade groups, and that has become so easy. We go to a show in New York. We just went to one in August, and the groups are together at the Javits Center in one. Mm-hmm. So it's so easy. So whether it's Kenya, South Africa, India, if we travel to these places, we know we can either visit the group's program, but we know that we can get those things easily in the States. So we travel for the one of a kind. In Turkey, we still were looking for that tribal weaving, and we found them. Rather than buying anything in bulk or.
Yeah. I always like, for myself, when I'm shopping, I always like the unique item. You can go to Walmart's and other stores and Sears and Roebuck's or whatever, and you go in one, you've been in them all. But it's nice to find the smaller shops, such as your own, where you can find the unique gift that you're not going to find anyplace else. And to me, that makes a much more special gift than that.
And me too.
Yeah. Yeah, because that means business, and that's good. What do you think was your most fun experience that you had, we'll say, in Turkey or South America?
Oh, that one. Oh, so many. But one, we traveled to visit nomads in the south central part near the Taurus Mountains in Turkey, and the girls were still young, and we were on donkeys, and we finally made it to, where a few nomads were staying. And it was, don't forget, I did study anthropology 100 years ago. That was just so exciting for me, although overall it was a little difficult. My older daughter had to go to the bathroom, and there were dogs. Dogs protect the little encampment and such, and so she had dogs and an audience to contend with. And I don't know if she's forgiven me since she was 13. And but that was a highlight of just really being out there, looking at. I was so impressed with. The woman had an economy of movement. She's in this tent. There are babies, there are animals, and she's just cooking for us. I was overwhelmed. I mean, getting the water every day. It humbles you to no end what people do to get by in their day.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, we do take a lot of our conveniences, like walking over to the sink and turning on the faucet. There's all your water you want. We have refrigeration and electricity, and out there, they don't have that. You need water, you have to go down to the river or to the well and bring back your water and deal with that. And that's got to be quite a unique challenge.
Quite a unique challenge. And in between all of that, she's weaving these masterpieces. Wow. It's a challenge, but it also leaves you in awe of the human spirit, human abilities. Pretty fantastic.
Yeah. What would you say would be maybe a funny experience that you had in South America?
Well,
or Central America.
Okay, I don't know how my grandchild will take this for telling the story, but I have a grandchild who has wonderful hair. And it's a little bit blondish, very, very curly, and a whole lot of it. And we were in a small village in San Antonio Polipo in Guatemala, and a woman was selling her weavings, among which included headbands. So she took the headband off her head and put it on my granddaughter. I photographed it because it was fabulous, this blue and all this huge amount of hair being controlled by this line of blue. Well, it seems, or we later brought it back to that moment, we all got head lice.
Oh, dear.
On that trip. And maybe it was just that simple from the headband and being put on. And then, of course, we were all sleeping together because it was hot, and you would change the bed with the one kid after another. So we all came back with head lice. And the end of the funny part of the story was she ran into her uncle at the East Side Y, and he said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she said to him in a lower voice, "I have head lice." And he thought she said something about, "I have a good life," or something. And so he repeated, "About your life?" And then she said in the loudest, most booming voice you have ever heard, "No, I have head lice." Well, if you think Moses separated the waters, the people around just moved away. It was...
Yeah, I can imagine. And the good thing is we won't mention any names, so it won't matter.
It won't matter.
Only she will know.
Oh, she will know. Oh, and her mother will know. It was so hard to get rid of. She has a lot of hair.
Yeah. I can imagine. Well, I want to thank you, Joan, for coming and sharing your stories with us about the neighborhood and your shop and the programs you did here in the library. And I want to thank you so much for doing that.
Well, indeed, it's been my pleasure, and I just appreciate you and the library so much. It's been such a big part of our existence here, and we do appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yay.